Hi, I'm Simon, and this is a response to Interghost's question of which arcade games and where did you play them as a kid? And I thought to myself, even though I've uploaded a video very recently, this is a question that I need to answer because it's kind of linked into a lot of thinking I've been doing recently whilst preparing for this video series, How Far on One Life. As I'd said previously, I've got a list of about 20 or 25 games that I'm definitely going to make videos about. And through creating my little list here of where I played games and what games I played, I've actually dredged up a couple more that I'd forgotten about. So thank you very much, Interghost. I really appreciate you asking this question, or maybe these games would have slipped my memory. Now what I'm going to do is I'll put little tags up here, well, the names of the games that I'm going to be talking about, and if I've made videos about them, I'll annotate them, I'll put links to them, because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about each game here, because some of them I will have talked about before, and if I have, you can go and watch that video if you care to hear me waffle about them at length. So I'll try and keep this as brief as possible, which those of you who know me will know is very difficult for me. Talking about video games and keeping it brief is going to be tough, but I'll try. So, starting with the place where, well, I mean, it's very difficult to think about where did I first play video games. I find that difficult to remember. But one of the places that was around that sort of 8 years old age where I first started playing arcade games was my local youth club. And although a lot of the other kids there, especially the older kids, used to go because it was for the disco, they wanted to dance, I never had any rhythm, I still don't now, so that was of no interest. All I was interested in was the arcade machine. The arcade machine, because they only had one, and it was Space Invaders. And as simple as that monochromatic screen is, and the aliens slowly, or sometimes quickly as you kill more of them, working their way down the screen, it captivated me, and it certainly took a lot of my 10p's. So a lot of that money that my mum gave me to buy Coca-Cola with was put straight into the arcade machine, and I had a great time doing it. Now, around about that time as well, in fact, probably for the first 10 or 12 years of my life, my parents every summer used to take me to Brighton because my grandparents live near there, and so every summer we'd visit the beach. Every summer I'd want to go and see the arcades, and even if I didn't play the games, I might have watched my dad playing them or my uncle playing them. I always liked them. And one of those games, the one game that really stands out is Dragon's Lair. And it's a rubbish game. I mean, it's just waggle the stick in the right direction and push the button to make the animation progress. But there was something just captivating about the idea of having a cartoon that moved, and I loved it. My dad always saw it as a waste of money, because for me all it was put the money in, move the stick, the thing dies, move the stick, the guy dies. And I never really got anywhere, but I loved it. Now, moving on from that was what I consider to be the pivotal moment in my gaming history, coming up against the game that made me realise that I would love video games forever. And when I was 10 years old, my parents took us on holiday to the Isle of Wight, and we stayed in a town called Sandown, and right near our hotel was an arcade, and in that arcade was Space Harrier. Now, I know I've talked a lot about Space Harrier in the past, so I'm not going to bother waffling on about it here, but it was a life-changing experience, and I would love to have an arcade machine of Space Harrier, but that's never going to happen because they're so rare and expensive. Now, moving on to my teenage years, there were a couple of places that I spent a lot of time playing arcade machines, but neither of them were arcades. The first of those was my local ice rink, and one of the games that really stands out for that period is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Hero Turtles as it was. But again, that's something I've talked about in a previous video. Operation Wolf was another game that I loved and still love to this day. As rubbish as I always have been at that game, I still love pretending I'm a commando and playing Operation Wolf. A couple of fighters from that period, side-scrolling fighters that I played a lot. Final Fight, which I still think to this day is a great game. And another game that's got as much nostalgic value but not as much merit is Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. And yeah, great fun that game is, but not a great game particularly. And the other place that I used to go to play games, and this is somewhere where, out of all of the arcade games that I've played, this arcade game is the one that has swallowed the most of my money, and that is Street Fighter 2. Man, I've shelled a lot of cash into that. I never became particularly good at Street Fighter 2, but I always loved and still do love playing that, especially the original World Warriors. Now, also at this arcade, another fighting game that I loved at the time and I still enjoy, although it surprises me that I like it because it's a wrestling game, is WWF Wrestle Fest. And I say it surprises me because I didn't at that time and I don't now particularly like wrestling. I find it quite annoying, the fakeness of it, but it works pretty well as a computer game. And I guess one other thing that stood out from that period, a game or series of games or brand of games, is Neo Geo. They had either a 4 or a 6 slot machine, and I used to like playing that, particularly Fatal Fury, and there was a football or soccer game there, I think it was a futuristic one because you could power up your shots. Can't remember what it was called, but I remember I used to love playing that. So those were the two bigger arcade places that I used to play at. Yeah, the other places were smaller. A couple of local not DVD, they went around at the time, video rental shops. There's one very close to my house that had Aliens, the old Aliens arcade machine in there for 10p a go, and I used to love playing that. It's maybe not the best side-scrolling shooter, but it is a pretty cool game, and I really did enjoy that one. Over the other side of town, where my friend and I used to ride on our bikes to go to this rental shop because they rented out Sega Master System games and also sold them there as well. But they had an arcade, a Double Dragon arcade. And I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think Double Dragon is pretty good value for money because you can just pretty much walk the whole game just doing the old elbow. And so, as a kid, it's like, wow, my 10p is going such a long way, and especially when there are two of you playing it. So those two games, played a lot of those, and one other place that had 2 or 3 arcade machines in the lobby was the swimming pool. And one game that really stands out, and it's a game that until a couple of years ago, I didn't know what the name of it was. I'd forgotten what the name was. It got removed from the swimming pool after a couple of months. And I never saw it again. And just by chance, I stumbled across it in Retro Gamer magazine in one of their articles, a series of articles called The Unconverted, which is arcade machines that haven't been converted to home systems. And there's a game called the Karate Tournament, and I think the blandness of its name is the reason why I didn't remember what it was. But there was just something about that fighting game that always stayed with me, that it was quite different to Street Fighter 2 and seemed more realistic in its playing style. I don't know whether that really is the case. It's not that realistic, but yeah, it's a very cool game. And so I've obviously played it on MAME since then, and we'll definitely be doing a video about it in the near future. And then the last place that I used to play video games at, coming into my 20s, was a bar. Well, it was an arcade, but it also had a big bar area there, a place called Smiling Sam's. And there it used to be sort of the big multiplayer games like Daytona and other races that I used to play a lot, and I guess Tekken. But by that time, arcades had become less important because the power of the home systems was pretty much equaling what you'd see in the arcades. So the necessity to go to the arcades for the best games was pretty much coming to the end there. And that pretty much brings me to the end of my arcade story. So thank you very much to Interghost for asking this question. If there are one or two of you out there who don't know who he is, I would definitely recommend checking out his channel. He's a really nice guy, one of the few YouTubers I've actually met in real life. And his channel's got quite a lot of in fact, his 2 channels have got quite a lot of varied content on there, often asks good questions like these. And as I said, really nice guy, so worth checking out. So thanks to him, thanks to you if you're watching for asking that question. Thanks to you guys for watching. I look forward to seeing your responses on Interghost's channel. Don't post responses here. You can post comments, but if you're going to make a video response, respond to his video. So thank you very much for watching. From my spare room to wherever you are, this is Simon signing off. Bye-bye.